Joining me now is Republican Congresswoman Mia Love, a Republican of Utah. Congresswoman Love, thanks so much for being here. Great to see you as always.
Hi, Jake. How are you?
So, I guess the first question I have is, whom do you hope Donald Trump chooses to be vice president? It looks as though it's down to, based on what I know, Mike Pence, Newt Gingrich, and Chris Christie, possibly. What do you think?
I have no idea. I actually haven't spoken to the Trump campaign yet. I have no idea. You know, Trump is going to do what Trump does, and so.
But who do you like the best?
Oh, you know, all of those. I think Mike Pence is a great choice. I think that would be a good choice for him. But, you know, in terms of me, I'm trying to stick with my district and do everything I can to represent Utah and you know, be the best member I possibly can for them.
Well, let's talk about you. 4 years ago, you had a very prominent speaking role at the Republican National Convention. This year, you've chosen to skip it along with other members of Congress from your state. Is that an indication you think that Republicans are still clearly having problems uniting around Donald Trump?
Well, you know, a few years ago, when Mitt Romney had close connections to Utah. Understand that the House of Representatives is the branch of government that's closest to people. And I think it's important for us to actually go out and say we don't represent a national party. We actually represent the people that have elected us to represent them. And so I think that this is an opportunity for us to say, okay, these are some of the things that we agree with. These are some of the things that we disagree with. And maybe, you know, try and see what we can do to come together in a room and talk about a positive agenda that's going to help not just our districts but America. But I don't think it's the time for us to just say we're going to blindly follow one candidate, because it's you know, times are tough and people are hurting. So we've got to make sure that we're following issues instead of one person.
But if Marco Rubio were the nominee, I can't imagine you wouldn't be at the convention, right? This is because you have serious concerns about Donald Trump.
Marco Rubio had a positive agenda for America moving forward. I could actually go through and look at policy by policy and say I can endorse that policy. I can endorse this policy. Yes, I agree with this. And also, Marco Rubio actually came out to Utah and gained the support and the hearts of the people that I represent. So in representing Marco at the convention would have been representing my district. So I think that that's the difference there.
Is there anything Donald Trump could do to get your endorsement?
Well, I think that one of the things he has to do is he has to go out and be and understand that if he gets elected, he is going to be the leader of the free world. It's not enough to just go out and just say whatever you want to. You have to come up with positive agendas moving forward, especially in light of what we've seen recently with all of the tragedies and the innocent blood that's been spilled. We need someone who's going to unify Americans. I am so sick and tired of the divisiveness. I think that's subpar, and I think we as Americans deserve a good, positive agenda and someone who is going to unite us. And you know, just to be clear, I am adamantly opposed to Hillary Clinton being president, because I know what she's going to do. I've seen her in action, and there's no way that I can support Hillary Clinton as a president. So I'm just going to be very clear about that.
Speaking of divisiveness, obviously this is a very difficult and troubled time for our country. In the last week, we've seen at least 3 or 4 different events. 2 different ones where law enforcement were targeted, 2 other ones where there were questions about law enforcement using excessive force. What's going through your mind these days? How do you feel? How do you react to what's happening?
I guess I'm just sickened by by innocent blood being spilled. And it's important for us to know that, you know, some of these frustrations are validated. I mean, I think that people have frustrations, especially when you've got, among Black Americans, think about this, between 16 and 24 years of age, there's 24.8% unemployment. There are people that do not feel like they have any success over their lives. There are people that feel like there's violence, whether they're being targeted, whether it's police being targeted, or whether it's Black on Black violence. People are just going towards just being frustrated. And I think, again, again, we have to really fix the problems and allow people to feel as if they've got some sort of control over their success. And so, again, we have to go out and we've got to talk about how great our police officers are. There are going to be some bad actors out there, but fighting each other is not the answer. Violence is never the answer, and we've got to do everything we can to be a united United States of America.
Well, amen to that. Congresswoman Mia Love, we always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Jake.